considered wealthy in colonial Virginia would have owned a large swath of land with which to grow their cash crop, tobacco. Reliance on a cash crop, however, put them at the mercy of tobacco prices. At the beginning of 1771, Richard Henry Lee, who represented Westmoreland County in the House of Burgesses, wrote that Virginia planters, like himself, had plenty of cash due to the recent high price of tobacco. Unbeknownst to Lee, it was the calm before the storm. In mid-June 1772, banker Alexander Fordyce found himself unable to pay off his considerable debt and thus fled, causing his firm of Neal, Fordyce, James, and Down to cease payments. During the resulting crisis, nearly 3 out of every 4 London merchants engaged in trade with the colonies in North America, Virginia and Maryland in particular, would go bankrupt. On July 8th, tobacco merchant Alexander McCall wrote to Thomas Jefferson that the crisis had spread to Edinburgh and, to a lesser extent, Glasgow, from which he was operating. The crisis, he wrote, had thrown a damp on public credit, and it will be some time before it is perfectly restored. That month, the effects of the crisis began to be felt in Virginia. The sterling exchange rate, which affected the value of paper currency and had been at 20% in October, rose by 5%. On August 6th, London merchant John Norton predicted that there will not be very considerable cash purchasers in Virginia this year, owing to the distress of many of the Glasgow merchants have been in for some time past, as also the fall of the market. He advised his son in Virginia to exercise caution when purchasing Virginia bills drawn payable in Scotland, as they were discharged by drafts on the Heron and Douglas Bank, which lately stopped. On September 25th, one of Norton's correspondents wrote from Virginia, "The practice of drawing bills where there are no effects is scandalous at least, if it does not deserve a harsher name." On the last day of November, Virginia Treasurer Robert Carter Nicholas thanked the Nortons for their repeated friendly cautions as to what bills of exchange I take in these precarious times. It is almost impossible to know certainly whose bills will be honored. On February 12, 1773, he wrote, "The difficulties I meet with in collecting the money due to me in the country will lay me under the necessity of valuing myself considerably on your friendship sometime this spring on my own private account." On June 26th, a Fredericksburg merchant wrote, "The late bankruptcies have made prodigious alterations within these 9 months. The factors for the Scotch merchants in Glasgow are forbid to draw, and a great number of their bills come back protested. To support their credit, the merchants shipped 100,000 pounds of gold and silver to Britain during that time frame." On July 15th, a merchant in Falmouth, Virginia, wrote to an associate across the Atlantic, "I am much concerned to observe the great difficulties the trade labors under in Britain by the failure of some great houses. The consequences have extended to this part of the world to a violent degree, and unless our principal export, tobacco, can be kept up in value at home, I don't see how we shall be enabled to discharge our debts on your side of the water. The price of tobacco was so extremely low here at present that it goes a very inconsiderable way in discharge of the planters' balances." On September 22nd, Nicholas wrote to the editors of the Virginia Gazette that the great governing cause of the rise in the sterling exchange rate was the extreme scarcity of bills, and this owing chiefly to misfortunes in Great Britain. At the same time, the demands for them appeared greatly increased, probably owing to the vast importations of goods for several years, which must have augmented the balance of trade greatly against us. From this source, in my opinion, are derived the greatest misfortunes to this country. The colonists of North America were regularly in high amounts of debt and were continually making efforts to prevent or slow their payments. Their debts were increased during the economic boom of the early 1770s. The crisis led to a tightening of credit, which strained relations between them and their creditors in Britain. Additionally, the crisis made the colonists susceptible to anti-British propaganda as the American Revolution approached. If you like our videos, please like, subscribe, and comment below.